All right, ladies and gentlemen, 1650 PWAM. That's 1650 PWAM, Pro Wrestling and More. Joe White with you live tonight. The other two members of the 1650 crew are sitting this one out. They'll be back on the network later on in the week. Got a special guest joining us this evening. He is the technical director for CWF Mid-Atlantic. And I guess you would say he's the main camera guy for what many are calling Match of the Year so far this year, including everything that went on WrestleMania week. And that's Mr. Grant Sawyer. Grant, how are you doing this evening?
Pretty good, but it says a lot about my status in the company when the other two guys are going to show up later in the week for the true main event when Chip Day joins y'all, and I'm relegated to just one host.
Well, actually, Chip Day. I'm interviewing Chip Day solo as well. That's my deal as well. They're not coming on. They submitted some questions for Chip, and word is on Twitter, Chip Day responding, saying that he's got a lot to say about their comments as well. So I'm curious to see what Chip has to say about the match. I'm curious to see what Chip has to say about my co-host's comments. Now, did you happen to hear any of our show from last night?
Well, as I will tell anyone, I will listen to any podcast out there that as much mentions us for any amount of time. So, yeah, I was actually fortunate enough I had a little bit of time earlier today to sit down for at least the first couple hours while I was doing my other work around town.
First couple hours, that's us. You know, we sit down and tell ourselves we're going to go maybe 2 hours tops, and then we end up going 3.
It's a prototypical indie show. Oh. No matter what the intentions are, it goes way too long.
Damn right. Damn right. And we wouldn't have it any other way, especially when it comes to CWF. Grant Sawyer is with us again, technical director for CWF Mid-Atlantic. I also want to throw out there he has edited some books. If you go on Amazon, The History of Pro Wrestling, Jim Crockett Promotions and the NWA World Title from 1983 to 88. That is volume 3 in that series. Battleground Baltimore, How One Arena Changed Wrestling History. A number of other ones, A History of Professional Wrestling. All those books were he did in conjunction with Graham Cawthorn, who's the author. You can find those books still on Amazon. They came out in 2003. I believe the last one came out in 2015. That was the Baltimore book, correct?
Yes.
All right. So everybody check those out on Amazon. They're actually fairly cheap for paperback books. I mean, they've been out for a while, but you can find those there. I want to start off by asking you, because there's not a lot out there. People are going to ask, why have a technical director on? Well, Jeff Edwards from the network says it best. Joe White likes bright lights. Joe White likes production. And I do like production. That's my favorite aspect of the business is production, how it gets put together, how it gets put to the screen, or how it even gets put, getting the match in the ring, it can be a challenge sometimes. But I want to know, how did you start off in the wrestling business? And how did it come, to where what you're doing with CWF Mid-Atlantic?
Well, it's either a long story or short story, depending on how much time we have. The most condensed version is my two loves as I kind of grew up and then kind of like near the end of high school going into college. My two loves were professional wrestling and video production, cinematography, whatever you want to call it. So I went to college for video production and, had a love for wrestling as well. And then after I'd been working in TV for a little bit, it's just one of those things. Just as you drive around town, you see, this would be the mid-'90s, you see the posters advertised on the old, the telephone poles. It's the old style, pink, blue, green, reddish poster that advertised your local independent wrestling promotion. And I was like, in my head, I was like, well, I'll just call brother up with the phone number that's listed on the poster and tell him, kind of what my background is and just ask him if I could just shoot a show. And this was the very first show I ever shot was the Saturday, the day before the 1995 King of the Ring. And, it's one of those things where I got some sheets and stuff, so I was smart to the business, but I wasn't as smart as I thought I was. I think that goes for a lot of us when we're first starting out, where we're putting the cart before the horse, and we don't really understand, even though we think we know.
Right.
So, I'm just going back and forth with the boys that are showing up waiting for the ring in the parking lot like I am, and I'm debating about who's going to win King of the Ring tomorrow night like a complete mark. And, the boys are like, well, obviously Sean's going to win it. I'm like, no, Sean's actually not going to win it. But I'm coming off like the mark who thinks he knows everything, even though, I end up being right. But that's neither here or there. I did not know when to pull back on what I was saying at that point in time. And, in the past 20-some years, I don't know if I've ever really learned how to pull back on what to say that much. Stutzy would probably back me up on that. But it's just one of those things that just kind of develop over time. I working in television and working at Fox never really allowed me to really pursue wrestling on a full-time schedule because, you would always be working Saturdays. But
Right.
whenever I could, I'd check out the local wrestling scene here in North Carolina and whatnot. And, I would occasionally do some tapings and whatnot, but I was never full-time. Once I left television, and it was just one of those things that timed out perfectly where, like, I shot just emails to random promoters, and it just so happened one of those websites I stumbled upon in the early going was for this Carolina Wrestling Federation that was about to run their first ever show in Burlington, just around the corner from where I lived. I was like, well, I need to hit this guy up. And it's a very simple sell from my perspective. I'm like, look, if you'll let me come sell some bootleg videos, here's my resume, which looks, ridiculous from an independent wrestling standpoint. I'll be happy to shoot your show. Just let me do a gimmick table, and, it's just a free exchange. So, we're both getting something out of the deal. So they have a, guy that's worked at Fox and done all this television background, and, and I'm getting to, work on something that I truly have a passion for and love.
I want
And it snowballs from there.
working for Fox. What actually did you do with Fox? And I'm assuming it's a local affiliate down there, correct?
I worked at 3 television stations, the Fox affiliate beside of Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and the Fox affiliate in High Point.
Oh, okay. So you're not from Carolina originally, then, are you?
I was born in Burlington, North Carolina,
Oh, okay.
and have made I made a count a while back. I think I'm on my 20th move or something like that. A lot of
Jeez.
it's just because of family moving around when I was a kid, and then just the fact that I'm just old.
So I mean, going from TV to wrestling, you said that may not look good from an independent standpoint, but I would think it would. I think that they're chomping at the bit. Most indie promotions are going to look at that resume and go, "Hey, here's a guy who actually knows what he's doing."
Oh yeah. I didn't mean it looked bad from the promoter's standpoint at all. It was a very easy sell for me to be able to work any independent show back then because of just send my resume attached to the email, and it was come on down pretty much.
Right. And they were not always in the sportatorium that they're in now. They were in a different, I'm assuming, different building at the time. They've been through like 2 different buildings, 2 or 3 different buildings, correct?
Right. Well, actually, when we first started in December of 2000, we were only running out of recreation centers there at that point. And then in 2002, we opened basically just what we call the CWF Dojo, which was in a little closer to downtown Burlington. We were in that building for, maybe 2 years. Then we opened the Carolina Sports Arena, which was on the other side of Burlington, and we were in that building for, I want to say, 5 years. Then the original Mid-Atlantic Sportatorium, also in Burlington, we were in that for another 4 years, whatever it was, and now in our current Mid-Atlantic Sportatorium for the past 4 or 5 years.
And I want to get to a couple of questions that we had last night, and I'm assuming since you listened to the first 2 hours of it, you heard some of these questions, and I'm
Sure.
So that building, we had Stutzy on, Brad Stutz, for those who don't know, who's the booker of CWF Mid-Atlantic. He's also been a performer. He was a manager, Team Fatback. There you go. So they that building, we were discussing it with Stutzy. That building is pretty much like I first walked into that building a year and a half ago for my very first CWF show, and I'm just like, This looks like the old NWA Techwood Drive Studios, man. You got the flags hanging. It's very intimate. You're right up against the ring. And one of the things that we were discussing last night was hard cam. There's no hard cam in that building. It's basically the crow's nest camera, which I guess what you would call your hard cam. And then there's the one camera over the entranceway. And then there's two of you guys on handhelds. I talk a little bit about why you can't put a hard camera. I think I answered it last night. I think it's the building just does not permit it.
Well, my philosophy towards the hard cam is going to be a little bit different. What you said about the camera in the crow's nest is correct. To me, that is essentially our hard cam. But at the same time, it's not a traditional hard cam in the sense that it's the camera the guys go in, pose to, or, kind of direct towards the TV audience.
Right.
I usually tell guys, it's like, for that purpose, I'm more of a hard cam, but at the same time, work towards the crowd, which is opposite of me. It's a little bit of a different production production setup than your normal independent. And here's my thing with the hard cam. For anyone that was arguing or going back and forth about it on the show last night, too many independent promotions bastardize the hard cam and completely misuse it. When the WWE used the hard cam in the 1980s, they had it set up straight on to the ring. And you would see this giant wall of people because they were in a 12,000-seat arena.
Right.
So a hard cam for a lot of independent promotions now, they'll do that same thing. They'll go set up a camera that's ring level, shoot it, and that's their hard cam shot. Now, the difference is, if you're doing this shot, half of your shot is the big blank wall at the back of a gymnasium, and you don't see a single person in the crowd.
That's right.
Because the crowds aren't leveled up. If you're going to shoot a hard cam shot, it needs to be elevated in an independent show, with very rare exceptions. And because of the way our building is structured, you can't really do that. Now, I did it this past weekend because we were doing so many different things for Eddie's Night anyway, and I wanted the show to have a completely different look. So I actually did a very rare traditional hard cam shot with the specific intentions of making it look like a 1980s WWF setup. We still don't have the crowd, but it was very intentional the way it was done. But I cannot stand videotape independent promotion shows which do not emphasize or put any emphasis on the look of the crowd or the building, and it's just this stationary hard cam shot. And that's why I don't want to do one, because too many independents do use them, but they don't use them properly.
Right. I think that there's a big difference in, and that's part of the reason why NXT was developed, was to get wrestlers on that level used to their camera setup and their production. And I think when last night we put over the production standpoint big time. I think the hard camera thing was the only thing that AC really had to complain about. The fact is, go out there and they mentioned you guys this past week. Go out there and look on half the indie promotions that are on Flow Slam right now, or, Indie Promotion X. It's just what you said it is. It's one camera set up, and you got a bunch of people walking around with Sony handy cams that really don't know how to film an event. It looks like old Ring of Honor from 2002, and it's like
I'm going to cut you off for 1 second because I want to just touch on what you just said right there. The random people running around ringside, that is one of my biggest pet peeves in independent wrestling. It feels to me, and maybe it's just because it's me, it's not that hard to train someone to shoot independent wrestling. And it really bothers me, all these places out there that are just shooting it just to make content, as opposed to making it from maybe just, I can't just shoot stuff just for the sake of shooting it. I can't shoot stuff just to get a paycheck. I want to put something into this for the boys that are putting all the work in the ring. I want to, give them this reel that they can show other people, and people can be blown away by. And you can't get that if you have some goof running around ringside that's never been trained in shooting wrestling, or you're just looking at a hard cam shot from, however many yards away. Like, you can't get that feeling unless you actually, like, truly care about what you're doing and what you're shooting.
Amen to that, man. Amen to that. I was looking back at some of the classic episodes that are up on there. You've also done commentary as well, correct?
Yes, as Stetsy would tell you, that if you need one guy to completely lose their mind and scream at a heel, that I'm the guy to call on. I am. I know some people take a little bit getting used to Stetsy on commentary. I assure you, you want Stetsy losing his mind more than you want me, because I'm David Crockett. I can barely form a legible sentence on normal commentary. All I'm good for is screaming at a heel. Stetsy has the entire range of emotion that he can deliver out there.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the screaming he does do sometimes kind of makes me go, really? Like in that Chip Day Trevor Lee match. But it's totally excusable when you factor in the rest of the commentary that he's so brilliant at doing. And then you got, Cecil Scott, Bear sitting right next to him, adding it in, making it just just way better.
The only negative I would say about like a Chip Day versus Trevor Lee match, which did so many views, is because I really don't think our product is one to be watched in a vacuum. I think you have to watch it as a whole, because if you watch just a Chip Day versus Trevor Lee match, you kind of get the feel that that's what Stetsy is, this over the top, announcer. But if you watch say the second match on the card and the show as a whole, you get more of a feel of who he is and his delivery. And it's much more acceptable when you watch it as a whole, and he picks his moments to lose his mind like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you go and watch the second match on that episode, the Sandwich Squad and the All-Stars in the finals of that the Cornado Cup tournament, it's night and day almost, the commentary on those two matches. I want to get your thoughts here. I was there live in the building, marking out as I was. People can watch me on YouTube. I'm the fat guy in the crowd marking out as I was telling AC and Jeff. What is it like shooting that? Because I came right up to you, and you were talking to John Filipavage, who's been on our show a couple of times, and I came right up to you, and I was like, you got gold right there, pretty much. I said something to that effect. I was like, and I even, on Twitter, I was like, afterwards, I was like, y'all need to put that up before WrestleMania weekend. Kind of kick it off. And you're like, no.
Sure.
You were like, no, we don't, because it's going to get lost in the shuffle. And you were absolutely right. The time to, even releasing it toward the end of April like you did was really, really, a good move on your part and Stutzy's part and whoever else had a hand in, and when stuff goes up. Talk about being in the center of that, and actually, because you had another match at 80s night, Trevor Lee versus Alex Daniels. Trevor Lee is literally on Twitter, he was almost about to shit himself in the ring, although you couldn't really tell from watching the match. What is it like to sit there and be in the middle of that atmosphere?
Trevor Lee versus Chip Day is in a very rare category where you just don't, those matches don't happen every day.
No.
And when you're shooting it, that you're shooting something very, very special. And in that moment, you just hope that you're doing a service to these boys so that whatever the beauty they are creating in the ring, you can replicate in video. And I would be just very distraught if I wasn't able to at least somewhat, present in edited form, at least a version of what I felt in that moment. It would be a great disservice to those guys if I couldn't, take something that special and allow the world to see it in as close to what we felt that night, which is very, very hard to do.
I will agree with that. Watching it live on, versus watching on tape, I mean, we even last night, I even said that's probably why I'm so biased about this. That's probably why I think this is my match of the year. That's why I think it's probably, again, I maybe probably never should have compared it to anything in New Japan, but at first that's why I was saying it's better than Omega Okada. Again, I want to mention, ladies and gentlemen, 1650 PWA Pro Wrestling and more. Thank you so much for watching / listening this evening. If you want to ask a question to me or to Grant, you can go ahead and pop it in the chat room. We have one already here. The Electric City Saint wants to know if you're involved in any of the graphic design team as well for CWF, or do you have a separate guy for that? He says he really likes the graphical overlays and logos on the videos used on the CWF channel.
We have. I do very little. If you watch any of the older stuff, I handled the graphics then. I don't handle really any of the graphics now. That's done by an incredible gentleman by the name of Aaron Griffin. He's not really out there on social media that much, but he basically has his own business doing video production out of the Raleigh area, and he's just fantastic. It's simply a great person, tremendous at his work, and he's been a friend of the CWF family for years and years, and love having him aboard.
That brings up an interesting question here that I'm going to follow up with that. Take everybody through a typical show. Like, what are your, you hear technical director. A lot of people are probably going, what does that actually entail?
Sure. You could probably assign me a bunch of different titles as far as that. Generally, me and Stutzy will, Stutzy handles all the booking, and then usually, me and Stutzy work together for so long, we don't really, unless it's something big like maybe the Rumble or like this 80s night production, we don't really get together that much ahead of time. But usually, on Friday, we'll, discuss things, and I'll, poke holes and stuff, and me and him will get into arguments, and, I'll storm off and have to get a shower to cool down, and then go back and, try to continue my side of the debate and whatnot. But before the show starts, it's usually me and Stutzy just going back and forth about, what match should go second, what match should open, what match should go to intermission, come back from intermission, and et cetera, et cetera. I guess before the show starts, a lot of it is just the feeling out process of knowing when a match should go on and knowing like how the crowd's going to take something, especially a lot of times, if you have, say, two really good guys, but the match is cold, how do you position something like that? Or maybe you have, two guys that are fairly green but they need to have a match. How do you get through that without completely exposing those guys? And stuff like that. And of course, a lot of this goes into kind of more of a booking aspect and technical directing. But as far as just asking me kind of what I tinker with is the show in general. Of course, music layouts. If it's a tag team, if it's two guys that normally don't team together, whose music are they coming out to? If one guy's clearly more over than the other guy and they're facing one another. But the guy that's more over is a heel. Who should the heel come out before the baby face, or just little, just all kinds of little things before you get there. And the day of, it's just it's usually equipment setup. You hope you don't have any last minute cancellations and have to ship the entire card around. Most of the time when I head to the building, I have everything printed out lineup wise and et cetera. So everything's pretty much set to go, and then whatever promos we need to shoot ahead of time. But yeah, and then I shoot everything, get everybody on the same page for the show. Come home, start editing, especially if we're taping on Saturday and it airs on Wednesday. I like having a little bit more time, but it's not a big deal if that's how the schedule plays out.
So as far as booking, as far as storylines and stuff goes, who's going to be feuding with who? You don't really have an influence of that, but as far as actually getting what Stutzy puts on paper to camera, that's where you come in and kind of team up with him and go, look, this is what we can do in this building with what you have on paper, and this is what we can do. Is that kind of the gist of it?
I've always said it as I'm a connect the dots guy. Booking is extraordinarily hard.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot praise Stutzy enough for his incredible booking over the years. But when I read through the stuff, I'll be like, wait, we need to do this or this. And usually I'm just filling in some holes, connecting the dots of a few things that may have kind of, just kind of got, just overlooked as we kind of went through it. And I'm just kind of, just touching everything up the best I can and, going back and forth on him, debate wise. But yeah, it's his baby. I just try to, add a few other little elements before we go live.
What is the one thing that he wanted to book that you just looked at him and said, look, you realize that we're in the Sportatorium, not Madison Square Garden. We just can't do that. Like, do you have a specific instance of something that he wanted to do that you just kind of was like, no?
It's not, it would not be over an aesthetic thing. It would be over, I mean, I'm not naming names, but let's say we started an angle with two guys and the start of the angle came off a little flatter than anticipated. Maybe the crowd didn't take to a certain angle. And his position is we need to go in a different direction. Maybe we're just moving on past it. And I'm more of a like, no, we at least have to do the one match because we started it. It don't have to be this epic contest. We just got to do it. And that'll be a debate. Usually with the Rumble is such a headache every year, and what we ask of that crew is ridiculous. And usually, I know very specifically this past year, I was extraordinarily hot at him during the discussion of the Rumble, but that's just the way me and him known one another since 1999. Like it's not a big deal for me and him to get upset with the other one. Usually it's me more upset, and he's the one telling me to calm down. But it's just part of what we do. Back when I worked in television, like you would have a director scream at you every day, and it was never anything personal. It was just in the act of trying to get the blasted thing on the air. It's just what you had to do. And that's what it is in wrestling sometimes. You just got to butt heads to get the thing going.
We have a question here on our YouTube chat room, and I believe I know who he is, or him is. CWF McAllister wants to know, and this is something that sparked a bit of a Twitter war last night with this guy.
Sure.
Who exactly was responsible for Kane Justice coming out to You're the Best Around? And this is from 80s Night this past Saturday. I thought it fit. I had it called before I even left the house to come to the building. I was like, I bet you he comes out to You're the Best Around. And sure enough, he did. Sure. I thought it was marvelous. But go ahead.
As I'm going to say, I said it first, although if Stutzy said he said it first, I mean, I can't argue with that. But because me and Stutzy say a lot are on the same page a lot. So either one of us could have said it. It was just one of those things. It was obvious he was coming out to it. And this is not a knock at all to TK O'Ryan. but no. This is, but legitimately, like, every independent to some degree is in their own bubble. There are fans in CWF Mid-Atlantic that have never watched a single PWG show. And to some of us, that sounds crazy.
Mm-hmm.
There are plenty of people that have never, ever seen a TK O'Ryan entrance. And if you're not in that bubble, you have no idea that TK O'Ryan ever has come out to that song. And like you said last night, it is just a one-time thing. It's not, it's just obvious. It's a karate gimmick, He was clearly coming out to that at Eddie's night.
CWF McAllister said he's the brother of him. So, you're absolutely right. there are people in that audience that don't watch Ring of Honor. They don't watch PWG. They watch WWE, maybe TNA, and CWF, and they probably, please don't take offense to this, it's just the type of crowd they are. They're probably not watching the YouTube channel because they've already seen it live. That's
Right.
unfortunate.
And it is a very different experience on the YouTube. I will say that. One other thing on the music thing, and guys will, I've ran into plenty of this over the years. I am so particular about guys' music. Like, to me, no indie wrestler should ever come out to a song that when a fan hears it, they identify that song with something else. So if you're coming out to Eminem, unless it's a really obscure Eminem song, you don't need to be coming out to it, because those fans, the first thing they think of when they hear Lose Yourself, for example, they're going to think of him. You don't want those fans to think of him. You want them to think of you. So I'm very, very much on these guys of coming up with, off the wall music, not off the wall, but just more obscure stuff that wasn't on the Billboard 100.
Right.
Come up with something that identifies you, but does not immediately make someone think of somebody other than you.
I'll be honest with you, Kane Justice's regular music, I can't say the name of the song because I never heard it up until when I saw Kane Justice come into the ring.
I love that music, too.
I do, too. Jeff Edwards goes, let it be known, TK did not have a problem with it, just AC. So it was kind of like us breaking AC's balls last night, because we knew AC is such a TK Orion mark that we knew he was gonna flip over it.
Hey, you know what? I get it, because up in Nova Pro Wrestling, who we're associated with, there's a guy there that comes out to Princess of the Universe by Queen.
Yep.
And for years, that song was Fatback. And, that was all there was to it. That was Fatback. And to hear it somewhere else is so weird. But again, those people weren't in the CWF bubble, years ago. So I can't be like, how can you use Fatback's music? You don't know, that guy doesn't know Fatback. Those people don't know Fatback. There's no sense in getting upset about it, because as weird as it is for me to hear it, it means nothing to them. They probably identify the guy that comes out to Princess of the Universe, as him, not as Fatback. So, it is what it's all dependent on the bubble that you are in.
When I hear it, I think of Highlander. So it's
that's where it came from. But yes, your normal person probably would say Highlander.
Speaking of the crowd and how they, you speak of them in that bubble. That live crowd that shows up is mostly regulars. I don't come to every single event, but there are definitely a lot of people in that building that do, simply because I live 45 minutes away. I can't really, in theory, come to every single event. But there are people in that building that do. And then when they, we mentioned Chip Day and Trevor Lee being different, being totally different, and being in a kind of a vacuum. That crowd was not prepared for that. And I think that the commentary team did an excellent job explaining, hey, or kind of, I don't want to say covering it up, but they were, explaining, hey, this is our, Japanese style crowd. They're not bored. They're just analyzing it. And then by the end of it, the crowd obviously was into it. But I call them Smart Row. Right there next to the commentary table during that match, John Filipavage, Bruce Mitchell, who shows up to almost every show, Papa Hales, Dylan Hales, everybody that was on that row just came unglued like it was the second coming of Flair and Steamboat, kind of. And then, of course, I as well, but then they panned to the rest of the crowd, and the rest of the crowd didn't really know how to take it. And I've always said this for probably the last 6 months with CWF, ever since you guys have just been on a roll, and it's been growing and growing and growing. I don't know if you're the right person to ask this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How do you balance that, giving that regular crowd their wrestling versus giving smart marks who are checking you out on YouTube going, hey, this is a great product, their wrestling? Because to me, there is a difference between wrestling and wrestling. So how are, I don't know if you can answer this, but internally, has that come up at all?
I can't. I mean, we don't really have, a lot of what at times when me and Sipsy does, you just do it because it feels right. There's not like a big discussion of it. Like we're very aware that Dirty Daddy, that character doesn't make a lick of sense in our building, but like once you hear his backstory, if you're watching the TV show, like a lot of people online like dig it and love it and think it's like this great meta kind of thing.
Right.
But then you have someone like Rob McBride who, regardless if you're the down home wrestling fan or someone on YouTube, he has a appeal across every generation and every demographic humanly possible. You know, if you're thinking about doing Trevor Lee versus Chip Day, at no point are you thinking, well, gee, I don't know if the old school wrestling fan is going to like this. I mean, I'm sorry, if you can't like Trevor Lee versus Chip Day, then you're not a wrestling fan.
Exactly.
It's not like we're really trying to appeal to both. As we're just, we're just doing our thing. It's funny how wrestling fans a lot of times put a lot of thought into things that we never think about for 1 second, as much as we're just out there doing it, and a lot of it just feels right. I don't really think we're trying to cater to multiple crowds. We're just trying to cater to wrestling fans.
I mean, I guess my point is, and what I've been trying, it's kind of hard to put it into words because I go to that building on a regular basis. Not as regular, like I said, not every show. I have a life outside of it, and here coming up, I'm starting a job that prevents me from going to those shows because I'm going to be working every Saturday. But when I go there, it's weird for me to see. I wouldn't say weird. I don't want to say weird, but I'll say weird because it's like I'm sitting there watching Lee versus Day, and here it is, me and that whole row of people are marking out, and the rest of the people are just like, it's a match. What is going on? Why are these people reacting like this? What is wrong with these people? And I just wanted so bad to look over at the people who were just sitting there stone-faced and go, do you not get what you're seeing right now? This is so awesome. Granted, the crowd was into it by the end of it. The entire crowd, by the time that 1 count spot happened, was full-blown into it. But what I'm guessing is, do you as the YouTube audience, your job on YouTube, I guess, is to not only to get them to watch that on YouTube, but hopefully to get them to come down to the CWF Sportatorium and come to a show. So when they see that kind of match or when they see that kind of show and they come down and you got that more of a smart mark audience start to fill up that building, I'm guessing you don't want to alienate your regular crowd who could care less about the YouTube show and doesn't understand it either. I mean, it's like you said, you're just doing your thing, but I guess there is kind of, for me, there is a balance there. And I'm worried that, I don't want to lose the regular crowd because I like the people there. I like, chatting with the fans there.
As long as we're running in North Carolina, we're not going to lose that regular crowd.
Oh, no.
And we're never going to be that promotion that just books name indie talent to just go out there and have 4-star matches for no rhyme or reason. That's never going to be us. That's not our. Plenty of promotions out there do that, and I'm not knocking them for doing it, but that's just not what we do. We're gonna Eric Andrews is gonna be a heel. He's not gonna try and put on a 4-star match, but he's gonna be a guy that you cannot wait until he loses that television title.
When you mentioned putting on matches just to put on a 4-star match, I just wanted to do the old PWX cough. Really? But
no, I'm not. It's nothing against PWX. Look, here's the thing. There's a difference between a 5-star match and a perfect match.
Oh yeah.
We have perfect matches, and this is not me boasting at all, but I'm serious. We have perfect matches on every single show. Because if a match is designed to go 3 minutes and they go 2:45 and the guy that's supposed to get over gets over, that was a perfect match. In fact, I will almost go to. I'm not going to go the full perfect, but Donnie Dollars versus Cool J was pretty darn close to perfect this past Saturday. Because if there's one thing outside of the Trevor Lee match anyone's going to remember from that show, it's Cool J dying on Donnie Dollar's finish.
Jeez, especially that last one. That last finish, oof.
That's what I'm talking about,
I
yeah.
cringed because I was like, there's no way he ain't hurting after that. You can have all the training in the world, but that just looks sick.
Maybe the only time you ever hear the word Cool J and Perfect mentioned in the same sentence. But.
Anyway, moving on. I kind of agree, but anyway. Speaking of, you said as long as we're in North Carolina, we're going to have that regular crowd. Question we got says, strangely enough, if you look up the term Mid-Atlantic, Pennsylvania is considered to be part of this region by some. Do you realistically ever? That's what I said. But Mid-Atlantic.
I don't think anyone ever considered ECW to be a Mid-Atlantic promotion.
Well, you had people from the Mid-Atlantic travel up to it, like Baltimore, and they did run Virginia a time or two, but by that point they were national. But I want to I want to elaborate on this. I want to change this question around.
Okay.
CWF runs North Carolina for now.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Virginia. Virginia's on that Mid-Atlantic title. Are you ever going to run outside of North Carolina? Is that your decision? I'm guessing it's not your decision, but it's like.
Oh, I'll make my opinion known on anything, man.
I look at it this way. It's the Mid-Atlantic. I can understand why you don't run Virginia because the athletic commission here just sucks. Carolina really has none. So.
Hey, it's the same for South Carolina too.
Yeah. So, any plans I know y'all got a match in Chapel Hill, or a card in Chapel Hill coming up, but that's still North Carolina. Any plans to go out of North Carolina in the near future?
Well, I've been not too subtly hinting at running a show Mania weekend for about 3 years now, but no one's taken me up on that offer yet. So we'll see about New Orleans. As far as Virginia goes, you nailed it. It's the whole commission thing. Is it worth it? All the things that would have to be done to run one show in Virginia, is it really worth it? Especially now that there's I don't want to say, maybe offspring's not the right word, but a friend of CWF in Nova Pro Wrestling running in Virginia anyway. Like, if there's CWF guys you want to see in Virginia, like they're kind of filling that void now with, it was a very good mix of CWF guys and guys from other areas as well. And it's just not, in many ways, it's just not financially smart to try and venture out. Like, would it be cool for me to run a show in Green Bay or California? Yeah, I would love it. But who's going to show up? There's always, you're always going to get a few hardcores that watch you no matter where you go, but it's not going to, pay for all the transportation and the boys and everything. It's just not, financially feasible.
I'll be honest with you. And I'm going to ask this. Please don't think I'm a dick for asking it. I hope they do show up because of the business's sake. How many regulars from the Sportatorium are actually going to drive to Chapel Hill? Even though it's very short distance away, it's what, 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour at most? I don't think you're going to get a different crowd, which is what you want.
Yeah, the majority of Chapel Hill is Chapel Hill. There will not, if I had to guess a percentage of regulars to go to Chapel Hill, I would not think it's any more than, say, 25% at most. And that's probably being generous.
I want to run one more thing by you here because we only got about 15 minutes left here on this hour. And I'm damn sure not keeping you for 3 hours.
No. Well, no, I'm not. I want to stay for 3 hours, but I'm good, man. We can go whatever.
I was kind of hoping to keep it around an hour tonight, but
okay.
Because we gave him so much last night. But
right.
There's an article on pwponderings.com. It's an indie news wrestling site.
Yeah.
It's dated April 13th, and it's called "Wrestling YouTube Channels Affected by Restricted Mode." Rick Hendrickson, who is a friend of ours here on the network, spoke a lot about this too. He spoke with Shelton Goldberg, who runs New England Championship Wrestling. You guys are on YouTube. New England Championship Wrestling is on YouTube. YouTube, to me, how you can be an indie promotion and only stick to a DVD market is beyond me. If you should be on YouTube. But I think kind of CWF is kind of, and along with Northeast, New England Championship Wrestling are kind of pioneering the YouTube market when it comes to indie wrestling. But they were going after a lot of YouTube channels, saying it's not family friendly, and therefore they're not going to run ads during it, and they're not going to, partner you. My channel's been up for the better part of, 10 years. I was partnered way back when, when YouTube would only let you put videos up for 15 minutes. You couldn't go over 15 minutes. Now, we went 3 hours last night. You were quoted in this as saying, for those asking, new YouTube policy will not affect CWF Mid-Atlantic or the way they distribute worldwide. Since putting that up on April 15th, have you noticed anything? I've always wondered how you guys aren't copyright stricken with the entrance music, because I'll be honest with you, I put a reaction video up where I watched Trevor Lee versus Brad Attitude from Battlecade, and I got copyrighted on that. Even though I'm speaking over it and it's considered a review, I got copyrighted because of Trevor Lee's entrance theme. So, how do you guys battle that? I'm assuming, yes, you're up there on YouTube for, the fans to view the product and word of mouth to get out there. I mean, the Trevor Lee match is close to having 3,000 views as it is. So how are you guys? I mean, and a big part of YouTube is, hey, you can make money off of it. It's a revenue stream for the promotion. How are you guys combating this? Your presence on YouTube has been very good. Have you fallen victim to the YouTube red flag, as it were, since you guys have been on there?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know of anyone that has escaped the red flag as far as their new policy. Yeah, I mean, we're directly affected by it. The thing is, I just don't care. Like, I'm going to put my show up, Like YouTube, unless, aside from just, like, saying wrestling is illegal to put on YouTube, like, I'm going to put the show up, Like, I don't, like, if we got revenue to live off of, that would be awesome. But if we get 0.0 a month, that show's going on YouTube because I believe in it.
There you go, folks. So, fuck YouTube. Even though we just made the transition to YouTube, I think, YouTube is good for what we do. And because we were, I'll be honest with the people listening to this, we were a podcasting network who relied on Spreaker and iTunes. And we've gotten more views just on YouTube in the last couple of days than we ever did on Spreaker. So it is a good avenue to put down there. But saying that, all wrestling except for WWE is not family friendly and therefore YouTube's not going to get behind it or partner it is just bullshit to me. Because if anything is more family friendly, yeah, there's a couple F-bombs being thrown out there, but watch the 6 o'clock news, I just, if there's any more family friendly promotion out there, it's got to be CWF. They give you everything. They have adults, kids. There's, people, look at that crowd. Every adult in that crowd, probably has a kid sitting next to them some weeks. It's crazy. You guys do a lot of stuff for the Boys and Girls Club, where you take the Boys and Girls Club and say, hey, send a busload of kids into the Sportatorium. We'll put on a free show for you. I guess what I'm getting at.
Oh gosh, I love those. I love those shows, and legitimately, people talk about that booking the birthday party thing a lot, almost as a half joke. I'm not joking. The birthday parties that we have had in that building will never, ever be released for anything less than a small fortune on YouTube because of what has gone down at those birthday parties. Like, I cannot recommend booking them enough.
Can you give us a small example?
Oh, boy.
Because I'll be honest with you, and this is going to make me come off like a total mark. I have a 7-year-old son. You've seen him at the events. He's a total wrestling mark. He wants his birthday party at the Sportatorium.
Well, let me say this, though. Now, there is a difference between a 7-year-old birthday party at the Sportatorium
and a 40-year-old birthday party.
and a 22-year-old birthday party at the Sportatorium.
Uh-oh.
Very, very different. But yeah, like we always try to take care. Like we make it fun for the kids and very interactive for the kids and that kind of thing. Those are not the ones that I would be as scared to release, except that you do kind of run into situations where maybe two guys that are in a blood feud with one another are now teaming at a kid's birthday party or something. There's a little kayfabe breaking or something like that because that's what the kid requested.
It doesn't run in canon. It's not canon.
What was that? I'm sorry.
It's not canon. Birthday parties are not canon.
Right. They definitely are not canon. But yeah, like the older ones, if you watch Images of the Year very closely every year, especially these past 2 years, you will see clips from birthday parties in them.
How long does an Image of the Year video take you to put together? Because I'm assuming you're doing that all on your own, and that they're very good. Yeah. They're very good.
Thank you. First, sincerely, thank you. They are the bane of my existence. I started them in 2005, and it was the worst mistake I've ever made in my life. It is an arduous task that is as miserable as it is to put that sucker together. It is so incredibly rewarding when it's done, and you watch it with the boys, and you hear that pop, and you get all that praise and adulation, and the fans. Then we troll the fans and make them think they're going to watch it when Brett Attitude jumps in.
And then you give it to them the next show for real.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, you know what? Like every year it's the same thing. My wife tells me, hey, as the year goes on, why don't you start saving these clips so you don't have to do it all, in 1 week? I'm like, yeah, I know I should. And then about a week before New Year's Knockout every year, I sit down and start editing images for the first time. And I go through the entire years in that week and make my life completely miserable.
CWF McAllister goes, book your birthday party, 7 minutes in heaven match now. I'm not sure what that means, but okay.
There was a 7 minutes in heaven match at one of the grown-up birthday parties.
Oh, jeez. Jason, I butcher this guy's last name. Wisman. Birthday parties are the best and the worst things ever. He also commented earlier, our regulars kind of suck.
Right. I will protect. If you do not know who Jason Wisman is, I will protect his identity.
You can tell me off air because he's commented on a few of our videos, and I'm just like,
sure.
I have a hard enough time pronouncing his last name. So,
okay.
I wanna ask you one question. Can we talk some WWE? Because you did go to WrestleMania this past year, correct?
Yeah, I believe it was my 8th or 9th.
Were you
lose track.
Were you at the Raw after WrestleMania?
No, of all these manias I've gone to, like, I've actually had tickets for Raw on multiple occasions, and by the time Sunday ends, I'm like, I'm so dead. I just want to go home. I got nothing left. So no, I've actually never been to a Raw the night after Mania.
I want to settle I want to kind of ask an outside the PWAM bubble question here from somebody who's kind of in the, you are in the business, so I'll ask it. What is with Roman Reigns? What's your opinion of the way this crowd is just tearing him apart?
Oh, I think it's awesome. But, like, my thing with Roman Reigns is, it's, I get people saying he should be a heel, but they always say it for the wrong reasons. The only reason Reigns should be a heel is because he's not that great of a seller. And it's not even a knock on him. Like, he's a monster, he's Braun, like he doesn't, you can't elicit that kind of, sympathy for a guy that looks like that has that size. That's why he should be a heel. It's not because of all these other things people say about him or that he sucks or what, because he doesn't suck. He's just not a sympathetic babyface. And to me, that's the entire key. Like, and honestly, to me, like I will do my own fantasy booking once in a while. Just to pitch Stutsy some ridiculous things that like Paul Bearer's Ghost and stuff like that.
Oh,
but
that would be so good.
I
was doing a Stu Hart impression the other night, so Paul Bearer's Ghost would be awesome.
So okay, I don't need to go off on that rant, but
Go ahead.
But to me, the moment that would have kicked off the greatest heel run in WWE history, aside from Mr. McMahon, is if Reigns had turned heel last year around that same time Eva Marie was coming in, and they had become the WWE's true heel power couple. You know, God bless Triple H and Stephanie. But if you had put Reigns and Eva Marie as a heel couple in front of the Smart Mark fans, that's you couldn't ask for a better heel duo than those two.
Jason says that was legit. He goes, the boys were hot, and Grant, we are planning revenge. I have no idea what he's talking about.
He's referring to Brad Attitude interrupting images. He's still butthurt about it.
Dude, I think Brad Attitude interrupting that, and I even, you know, when he's like, cheers, assholes, I was the one on Twitter that went, that's a T-shirt, you know that, right? You know?
Right.
I think Brad Attitude is the best heel ever. It is fun to boo that guy.
Hey, did you say cheers, asshole?
Mm-hmm.
Then you need to make sure you watch CWF Worldwide tomorrow night.
Uh-oh. Again, we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up here. That's a good segue here. I don't want to get either. Ask for the Boxamania special.
Yes, Boxamania is a regular match at the CWF adult birthday party.
The fan
I guess
fest.
we could have a Boxamania at a kid's birthday party too sometime, but it's usually a little more sober at the kids.
Would the fan fest that you guys had before that Kernodle tournament finals, would that be the closest thing to an adult birthday party you had? Because they had people asking Brad Attitude about the rats in Florida. You know?
Yes. Were you there for that one?
I was there. I was sitting right there when they were. I was sitting right there when Kane and everybody else was going. Ask him about the rats.
Sure.
Ask him about the rats. And I chimed up and I was like, I'll ask it if you guys don't want to.
Yeah, well, that's the episode of Worldwide tomorrow night because the Attitude had the T-shirt.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Okay.
So CWF drops every Wednesday, 9 p.m. YouTube.com/CWF Mid-Atlantic. Follow them on Twitter at CWF Mid-Atlantic. I did not put your Twitter ID on the screen, Brad, because I don't know if you want that given out.
I don't care. It's StatMark. Yeah, plug it.
At StatMark on Twitter. If you want to get in touch with Brad, go ahead and give him a follow on there. Of course, May 13th, CWF Mid-Atlantic returns to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. You guys have been promoting it. One thing I did want to ask here, speaking of promoting,
sure.
Why was there no real big video packages for Chip Day and Lee?
I heard that discussion last night.
Uh-oh.
No. Well, here, part of it was, like, we weren't going to create anything bigger than the buzz that the fans honestly were giving us. And at the same time, I mean, there is a kind of a bit of respect to go to the tournament where, you have this entire tournament. And, I mean, it's fine to plug Trevor and Chip, but, I mean, I have a little bit of guilt promoting it over, this Mecca and Aaron against Roy and Eric finals that the entire, 4 weeks of TV have built to.
Yeah.
And you also have to keep in mind as far as promos or production elements of that, we ran, I believe it ended up being, 26 matches in 24 hours.
Oh, man.
And there was so much stuff. It's easy to say in a vacuum we should have gotten some promos ahead of time, but literally, we were taping all day.
Yeah.
It's not like we had all this additional time to go out and, shoot promos and stuff like that with that fan fest and the night before and everything else. So, in a perfect world, should we have gotten promos? Yeah, honestly, we may have. You could say we've maybe have dropped the ball on that one, and I'm cool with that. But in the context of that weekend, no, that the last thing on my mind was shooting 2 more promos.
So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. The next card that you guys have, I believe, is on Saturday, May 13th. Hargraves Community Center, 215 North Robinson Street in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Get your tickets online right now, CWF247.com. That's CWF247.com. You're going to see Snooty Fox take on Roy Wilkins, along with Coach Jim and I. Winner leaves, with $2,000. They're calling this event Double or Nothing. The next time you guys, I believe, return to the Mid-Atlantic Sportatorium, let me see if I could pull that up here. Do you guys have that listed here?
It is Saturday, May 20th for madness in any direction, in which I believe the entire card will be comprised of first-time ever matchups.
One of those is for the TV title. It is, oh man, it just escaped.
The worldwide television champion Eric Andrews against Joshua Cutshaw.
Yeah, that right there, it's heel versus heel.
Battle of two scummy individuals that they are.
It's heel versus heel, and it's going to be great. Find J-Mac at the shows for under-the-table liquor deals. That's another thing.
Yeah, it's J-Mac, Jesse McAllister.
I will tell you, I liked when I don't know the owner's name, but I know who he is. He's at every show, and he doesn't want his name known probably, so I'm not going to even ask. I liked the couple about a month ago when the load of frat boys from Elon came in and he kicked them out for smuggling in beer. I laughed my ass off. I was like, aha, they're not giving you a refund either.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not that kind of guy. Like, I don't care as long as you're not, like, if you're in the crowd cussing or stuff like that, I would have an issue with it just because of the kids and whatnot. But, like, it is what it is.
Well, my thing is I don't know how North Carolina is, but you try that in Virginia and the commission catches somebody in there with beer, they're coming after the promotion for not having a liquor license on board,
Oh, sure. In that context, yes, I agree with you.
So there you have it, folks. Grant, stay on the line with me here for a few more moments here after we wrap it up here. But, folks, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Check out CWF247.com. Follow them on Twitter. Guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight.
Hey, thank you guys so much for, like, just the promotion and all the love you've shown to CWF. Because, I mean, that's really, for me personally, that's the pay more than anything. Like, all the love, like, this past year with Worldwide, and the feedback has just been incredible. Thank you.
Not a problem, and we'll continue to do it, man. Because honestly, I stopped going to any other indie event but you guys. Because no other indie event will give me everything like you guys have. You guys give Ring of Honor style matches, you'll give New Japan style matches, and then you'll turn around and give us comedy, and you'll give us the old school Mid-Atlantic. If anybody is not on board with this, it is a total mixture of everything. With that being said, folks, thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll see you down the road.